This I really came up with because when budgets were severely cut, I had a lot of people coming in for training who had groups of 30 and 35, and they were expected to help them. But they had too many people to help. So, but this gives everybody a little bit of a healing experience. And it also allows the group to be autonomous in their decision of where to stand. We always have the ever-present other in psychodrama. We know that we can't think of everything. So right now I'd like to invite you to stand on a feeling that feels like where you are right now. Yeah, absolutely. And a sentence or two about why you're standing where you're standing, popcorn style. Not everybody has to share. When you're warmed up. In psychodrama, we work with the warm-up. Share when it's up here and you're warmed up and you want to say it.
Well, I'm standing between anger and resentment. I've recently come to how angry I am at my mother. And I really resent that she was really not available to me as an infant and as a small child because of her depression and her addictions. And I realized that had a big effect on my marriage, that it's come to an end. And the lack of clarity is becoming clearer. So I'm very angry and very resentful.
Thanks.
I'm feeling very, very cautious and just reluctant because this is such an unusual and different experience. Not sure how I feel. I'm kind of holding a lot of feelings in.
Thanks.
Well, I'm on the other, and I'm feeling similar to Stephen, but I'm feeling quite curious because I have no idea how this is going to transpire and what feelings it may kick up for me myself. So I'm just really curious.
I'm standing on complacency, which I'm feeling quite anxious about, actually. I mean, I consider complacency to be a real red flag for me. I don't want to be spending my life coasting, but I realise that I'm not warmed up in this group yet. But just by telling on myself, I realised I feel a bit anxious about that. I'd like to be a bit more present.
I'm also standing on complacency, and I'm here because I feel a little bit stuck. You know, I've been a little bit stagnant in some of my practices, and so I saw that and I thought that's where I belong today.
I'm standing on exhilaration. I have had some very difficult periods in my life, and it just seems to always be falling apart. And suddenly, for the first time in a very long time, I feel very connected, where I'm not fearful of trying new things. I latched onto this expression that someone else had stated: if you do the same old things in the same old way, you're going to get the same old results. And it's made me much more open, and where I'm very excited about this workshop and this happening, because if you don't try new things, you're not going to get any successes. And you know what? We can deal with our failures, because I've had so many in the past that it really doesn't matter. That's where I am today.
I'm feeling a bit numb, having just healed from a back injury. I was on some medication that I'm not taking anymore, and just not really feeling very in touch with my feelings right now.
Shall we move to another question? What feeling do you have trouble feeling? What feeling do you like to kind of block or avoid feeling? What do you know? What do you avoid feeling? What do you not want to feel?
Still a little bit.
What feeling you want to keep at a distance?
All right, between two.
Okay, who's warmed up?
Rage. Well, I'm smiling often. That's what I do. That's actually one of my, when I feel rage, I smile. It's one of my mechanisms. Like, I instantly go to something like as far away. If I don't want anyone to think like I'm not rageful. But it's just difficult just saying it and sort of standing in it. And it seems to be connected to so many other things: sadness and resentment. It's like a swirling sort of a sensation, sad, and even joy, sadness, anger, resentment, joy. Rage is just like, you know.
Thanks, Sam.
As I was standing here, I was realizing I just lost one of my coworkers, died suddenly, and that's very much present with me too. And you know, I'm kind of annoyed that I'm here right now because I'm very much somebody who I'd rather feel rage than nothing, you know, and I want to be able to identify my feelings and to articulate them. So, you know, I want to avoid being numb, you know, and I spent many years in this place, and it's very uncomfortable.
Well, I'm having a lot of trouble coming to terms with fear. You know, my life has been run by fear. My decisions, I mean, really significant decisions like getting married were run by fear. And I'm aware that I spend a lot of my time being vigilant about avoiding fear, which means avoiding a lot of the time other people's feelings. I'm spending a lot of my time being afraid of other people's rage, but of other people's sadness too. You know, so any strong emotions from other people, I find I have to protect myself from, and it's just such a cage. This fear thing is such a cage that I know that I've self-medicated over big time.
Thanks. Whoever feels like it, whoever's warmed up, doesn't have to be everybody.
I will share. When I first heard the question, I heard it as, you know, which of these feelings do you avoid? And I couldn't decide because there's a lot. And then you reworded the question, and it was which of these feelings do you have the most difficulty with? And this was very apparent. And I'm not sure why, but I know that that is definitely one of the ones. Loneliness could take me so quickly and just so deep. And so, but it was interesting how everything was a blur, and when I reworded it, this stood out.
People know.
Yeah, that was the same thing for me, because I heard the difference in how the question was presented. And my first response was the one that I am probably more afraid to express, you know, would be the sadness and anger, but then when it was switched the other way, it would be the fear and the anger that are difficult. I'd like to be able to express, but I don't. Like, I'd like to get real angry. I'd actually like to go to rageful and try it out for a while, but I don't go there, and I don't go to sadness. I don't cry easily. So I would really like to be able to do that, you know. Like, it's difficult. And I do avoid the fear thing, though. When I get afraid, it's like I get busy, I get joyful, I get spiritual, and I don't go towards the spiritual.
So if you were to say which one is the hardest for you to experience, it would be fear? Okay. You can move.
When you first asked us, I looked at anxiety, and I was just about to walk over to it, and then I viewed self-pity. And I realized for such a long time, I always had this attitude of, why is this all happening to me? And it took me such a long time to work through that period of time. And when it comes back now, where I begin to feel sorry for myself, I have to do these flashbacks. And I know that I try to avoid self-pity because it really places me in an awful spot. So while I'm not thrilled about anxiety, it would definitely be my second choice. This would be the one that I would have to work on.
I chose anger, and I'm experiencing a lot of people angry at me, and I realize how difficult it is on my behavior, why these people are angry at me. But I just had a hard time feeling their anger, and then it became really clear to me that part of that is that I'm really afraid of allowing my anger to come out. And I think that has very deep roots. But it's a very interesting thing, about being afraid of anger and then also of receiving anger. But the flip side is that I have really repressed my anger since I was a very little boy, and I became a really nice guy with a big smile. And I could easily step over the rage.
This sounds familiar to me. My anger, I'm fearful of anger. I don't like anger in other people. It shuts me down. Seeing that, I don't like to be angry. I don't like to demonstrate anger. I'm getting better.
So we're warming up to the next question, which is, which one of these feelings, and by the way, a group can have whatever feelings they want to work with. You can come up with them as a group, you can bring them in, you can add to them. Which one of these feelings is the hardest for you when you encounter it in another person? That's easy.
I'm with you again.
Sentence.
I would say denial. I didn't see denial that I have a hard time with people not owning what is going on. Probably because that's the way I grew up and that's what I learned, so I became very good at it. So, yeah, it's denial for me. I need to have someone tell me the truth.
Thanks.
Complacency is mine. I spent a quarter of a century in a career that I dealt with complacent people. It was my job to either correct them or weed them out. And it's not a pleasant task. Sometimes it was very heart-wrenching. And then suddenly I have a new career that fell out of the sky, and very, very often I see complacency. And I have, again, these flashbacks. Okay, how are we going to deal with this? Because, you know, and I try to get these people nicely out of this complacent mode. And I have a difficult time dealing with people who just become complacent, because I think it's a form of laziness, and I just have a difficult time with lazy people.
Well, I will go to almost any lengths to avoid other people's rage. Truly, I will. And I mean, at one point, I was in an environment which was safe enough that people could witness that I actually dissociated during for a couple of moments during an encounter I perceived as being rageful on the part of the other person. And I mean, that was very useful information for me, because I didn't realize that I had checked out, and people saw that I had checked out. And that's relatively recently that happened for me. It's a huge trigger for me. You know, so I'll walk away from friendships if people become rageful to me. I'll detour around corners to avoid people who are raging. You know, I'll go a mile down the street and then I'll call 911. But I can't be in the. It triggers absolutely everything in me to be in the energy of rage.
I also picked rage. I had a father who was a rager, and he died of a heart attack, and whenever he got in a rage, he would turn red and shake, and it just brings back fears of physical unsafety for me, so I chose rage.
Yeah, the same thing here. Past history of rage in the family, watching a lot of beatings, being in abusive relationships myself, and the lifestyle from my addiction that led to a lot of trauma. And I turn the corner. If someone's rageful, I run 100 miles. I just don't want to deal with it.
So on this question, the family of origin sometimes starts to surface a little bit. Can I give you a new? So the floor check lets us connect with what's going on inside of us. Now to connect with each other, walk over to somebody who said something that moved you or you related to, place your hand on their shoulder and tell them why you relate. This part of the process starts to create member-to-member connection
My
and
father was a
group
rager.
bonding,
Never physically, but verbally.
or it builds on what's already been
Verbally
created.
abusive household.
So share.
To my mother.
Share,
and to
share.
me. And it was always like that, even after I was in sobriety, until he died. When he would scream at me when I was sober, I would just turn it off.
I feel when you were talking about complacency, I really related that.
Like Pollyanna, that you're going to bring this in, and you're going to have total acceptance. You're going to have more resistance than acceptance. So she said, how do you do it? I said, you just do it. I said, because you have to live with it. And they don't really have to do it if we do it the way we designed. By having a few people being able to handle the people in between.
More judging.
What I'm hoping
I think there's a lot of judgment too with anger. From me, that's how I everything goes to
Except the releasing.
and so you want a positive experience. I don't even want in other words, like,
Okay, that is about enough time on this one. So groups like to connect in various ways, sharing openly with the group. Some people like to share more openly, some like to share more personally. Group cohesion is built by the member-to-member connection. The more mutual pairs, the more understanding pairs in a group, the higher the level of group cohesion in sociometry, which is part of psychodrama. People relapse over emotions. So one of the issues in sobriety is learning to regulate emotions. The more we explore emotions and get comfortable first identifying them, talking about them, and then sharing them with others, the more we can use our thinking mind to regulate the limbic emotional reactions we have.